Welcome to the Calm Movement podcast. And today I'm so excited to interview my dear friend, Megan Hemple. She is a mom, a wife, a very successful professional, an inspiration to me. And her story is very touching because a lot of women will relate to her. And she's going to tell us a little bit of herself and how she got here in her fitness and wellness journey. So, welcome to the Calm Movement. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
She's a lover of fitness and wellness. She truly enjoys lifting weights, but I wanted her to tell us how did she get into this stage that she's in her life right now, from high school to college to be where you are today.
In high school, I was an athlete. I did have exposure to lifting weights, but was always really active through sports in high school. Moved on to college, and I would say fitness was still a priority, probably less so, but it was still part of the priority. As I entered the workforce and remained single, it continued. I was able to kind of make fitness a priority. I don't know if I had the discipline, if I'm being honest, that I probably could have had, but it was always part of my life. Things definitely got harder once I had kids.
Mm.
And so had two boys and over the course of 2 years, and it fitness became a real challenge, and COVID hit, and that didn't help at all or anything like that. And I reached 40 and was unhappy with the way I looked, the way I felt, realized there were some things that I was still doing, but that were harder for me to do than I would have liked. And that's when my sister actually started to ask if we should start lifting weights together. So we really went through an educational program where we started to learn how to lift weights, how to lift heavy as a woman, and what that looks like as well. And what does good health look like? Does it have to be, running a marathon, which was
Mhm.
never going to be in the cards for me. And so started really kind of lifting weights and have been on that journey now for almost 5+ years. And it has truly been a journey to get to the point I've wanted, but also with a lot of like positive reinforcement through the scale, through the things I'm able to do and enjoy, and validation from people as well.
Let's go back to the point you're working and you have your two kids, and there was a day that you realize I don't like how I look or how I feel. So, was that a build up or was a day of realization that you said, I'm going to drive this car? I'm not going to be on the passenger and I'm going to take control of where I feel and the way I'm going to look. Can you talk to us about that day or how that process started?
So I don't know that if there was like just an aha moment. I had started to feel more and more uncomfortable in my own skin. And
Mhm.
had got to the point where things that I typically would have enjoyed, like I really enjoy clothing and stuff like that, where I didn't even enjoy that anymore. I was trying to kind of hide my body and hide myself because I didn't feel confident in who I was and and the look that was being visually shown to the world. It
Mhm.
wasn't who I thought I should be. And so for me, what working out was it I can work out 3 times a week. And by that I mean lifting. I can lift 3 times a week. And then how do I also complement that with walking? And so I'm not a runner. I was never gonna lose weight through running or reach my goals. But like how do I sort of find that balance, bringing in cardio and then the weightlifting? I talked to my husband about it, and he has been one of my biggest champions and supporters. And also really agreed to go on the journey with me too. So having that partnership was really helpful.
You touch a very important subject here because sometimes it takes two to tango. If you're living in a household where if you are not on the same page, it's very hard to be in that journey. And then you said you want to lose weight. When I hear the word losing weight, people say, I'm going to start eating less. I'm going to cut my carbs. You didn't mention those words. What you said, I didn't like the way I look. I want to lose weight. And I start educating myself about fitness.
Hmm.
This is the message that I keep telling people over and over. When you decide that you want to learn about fitness, you're choosing a lifestyle. It wasn't just like that moment. I need 3 months of my time to lose weight so I can look good or look good in the clothing that I want to wear. But you took the long journey. You didn't take the shortcut. So why you went straight to fitness? Did you understand that was so important that's going to dictate where you are today? 5 years later?
Yeah. Well, I mean, 40, certainly a milestone birthday. It was a little bit of a panic moment, just being honest, because it was like, oh, this is what I look like at 40. This is where my health is. Again, some things were harder, like hiking and things like that, things we enjoy doing. And if I want to be able to do those things when I'm 70, 80, right? Like
Mhm.
I understand that things I'm doing right now is actually the foundation for me to have a healthy, happy life when I'm 70 or 80. And so I wanna be around for my kids, and I mean, and truly that's probably more than my how I look in the world. It's that. I wanna have a good life. I wanna be there for those people that I love later in life.
You want to look strong. You like to travel,
Yeah,
right? You want
yeah,
to be carrying your luggage if you go to Europe. You
yeah,
want to be able to be carrying your grandkids. And
yes.
that's why I'm so excited because we're so aligned. You just summarized the message that I wanted the whole world, yes, the whole world to understand that after 40 is just not always about the way we look. Of course, it makes us feel good.
Yeah,
Of course. But I think the goal is no longer I want to look amazing. The goal is like, how do I want to actually live a life when you're in your 70s and 80s? And a big plus, it's how I'm going to look today. Strength, it's your investment, and your longevity. It's going to be the return for this investment that you spending so much time building your strength, lifting weights. When you talk about strength, you lifting weights, what are the main things that matters to you and why is that?
yeah. When I started lifting weights, I decided that I wanted this to be the thing that I stuck with. So when I started, I really started with the mindset of like, this is a lifestyle change that I am committing to. But I also needed to make it possible. You know, I'm not at a point where I'm single and it's just me that I have to take care of. I
Mhm.
have a lot of things to balance from family, friends, career. And so with weightlifting, I really took a like, what is a sustainable approach to weightlifting that I can do? Right. And part of that is like not going overboard on week one, day one, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Or even month one. It's what are the things that I can do? I think of it as building blocks. Like how can I continue to use those building blocks to get where I want?
What are your non-negotiables?
So I basically what weightlifting looks like for me is 3 to 4 times a week. And when I'm
For
like
how long?
for anywhere from 30 to 50 minutes.
Okay.
So like there are times where I have less time and 30 minutes is all I can give.
Okay.
It's also I've created some ways for me to be successful. So I don't always have to go to a gym to lift weights. I do belong to a gym and I try to go to a gym at least once a week, but I have weights at home so I can go down to the basement. It smooths the path and it makes it much harder to say, I can't do this today. And you don't need a lot of space or a lot
Mhm.
of setup to do that. And so we bought weights to do that at home in the basement. So when I'm sitting there tired, all I have to do is get myself to the basement, which
Mm.
at that point it's harder to have an excuse not to live.
That's the hardest part is just getting there.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. If it's at the gym
Yeah.
that you work out or in your garage or in your basement, but once you're there,
Yeah.
you're golden.
Yeah.
You're ready to go.
Yeah.
Based on our conversation, there is a lot of willpower coming from you. You decide that you're going to drive that car. You took control. You didn't like the way you look and you said, enough is enough. I'm going to do whatever I can to take control of my life. For women who is listening to you who are stuck into that mindset, and she's like, I feel so stuck and I wish I could do what she's doing. What would you tell this person?
I guess I would just say one, just start. And as a recovering perfectionist, I would also say that understand that each day is a new chance to do this right, to do it the way that you want to do it. Right. So it doesn't mean that I'm perfect, right?
Mhm.
Every day. What is even perfect? But like each week I have a goal about lifting weights again, 3 to 4 times a week. I ahead of time map out what that looks like on my calendar. So I treat it as an appointment so that that's an appointment with myself for my health. And, I will say again, going back to the husband, my husband's very supportive of that. We help each other honor our
Mhm.
appointments. We
Mhm.
talk about that. We talk about weightlifting with our kids too. And we think that's important for setting the tone about what a healthy lifestyle can be
Mhm.
as they grow older. But I kind of moved away from I have to be perfect at all times. And I moved to what does good look like each day?
Consistency over perfection.
Yeah.
because it's never going to be the perfect day. It's never going to be the perfect. There is always something out there. And if we just keep making those excuses or allowing those excuses to be part of the plan, we're never going to move forward.
Right.
And I like that you said, just start slow. She did the progression. She mentioned that start little by little, start with walking, start with no weights, then you can get the weights. But if you don't have the resources, your body weight is enough. You still are able to challenging your muscles with body weight. So don't wait for the perfect time to start. And I've seen you firsthand, your progression from maybe 4 years ago to where you are right now. And I am in awe to what you have done to yourself, the way you look, the way you feel, your skin's tight and firm. And not only that, it's just the aura that you exhale. It's everything. That's why fitness, it's so important because it's just not the way you look, it's the way you feel and the way people feel around you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were always positive. You always compliment people. You're always there for people. And that comes from everything interconnected,
Yeah.
from your wellness, from your fitness, from the life that you're living right now. And again, I love that you decide that you're going to make this a lifestyle, not like a short term. With that lifestyle, you are constantly moving and you're aware of your surrounding, the way you feel, what you eat. So, talking about food, what is your relationship with food?
So probably a year and a half after I'd started lifting weights, I talked with my primary care physician about GLP-1s. And so,
But why? You're already lifting weights.
yeah, I had lost weight when I started lifting weights. I started gaining muscle, right? And the scale is, it's something that I think is a important tool, but it's not the perhaps the thing that we should drive or
Mhm.
determine all of our success on, right? So
Right.
I was starting to get muscle. I was starting to lose weight. Sometimes the scale didn't always reflect that because I was gaining muscle, but I wanted to unlock more. And
Mhm.
and so I talked to my primary care physician about GLP-1s and started that journey. And so that really started kind of brought in more of the food aspect. I'd done research about macros, proteins, all that
Mhm.
stuff. And
Mhm.
definitely we were very focused on that. What I will say is that GLP-1s for me took away a lot of food noise. And so I no longer
Mm.
became something that kind of was always in the back of my mind. And that was very liberating for me.
Yeah.
It certainly is not the thing that has made or break my success, but it's been part of my story. And so I like to be honest about it because
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
don't like to there was no magic pill. Well, I guess that was the magic pill.
How you connecting the dots here, as we were discussing before, power to GLP-1,
Mhm.
power to the women who's taking the GLP-1 who has been trying for so long to lose weight and they're stuck. And power to them. What the message has to be is sure enough, you can have the GLP-1, but just do like you. Go after the weights because you don't want to lose your good muscles, right?
Right.
A bag of bones. You want to look strong. You look
Yeah.
strong. Your arms are strong. Your legs are strong. Your butt's tight. And I think that's the message. It's a combination of both. And eventually you just graduated from that and you keep on going on your journey with lifting the weight because in the end of the day it's going to be that lifestyle to get where you want to be when you're 70s. But if you're not strong to carry yourself through the stairs, to have good balance, what is the point? So it's a combination of both. What is the future for Megan?
There's not really an endpoint, right? It's about, again, it comes back to what you share all the time with the call movement, which is it's about consistency and it's about, showing up even when life doesn't look perfect.
Mhm.
And giving yourself some forgiveness when maybe you don't have the perfect week where you've hit all your goals, but then you show up again to
Mhm.
do the work. And I can never stop that, Leticia. I have to keep going. It's just not a really exciting or sexy answer, which is I just keep going.
I think that's pretty sexy. It's part of your DNA now. It's not a chore. It's no longer a chore. It's part of who you are. You
Yeah.
got to move. You got to lift weights to feel good about
Yeah.
yourself. I'm not, when I say feel good about ourselves, it's not only about the way you look from the outside, it's your inner. And I keep saying to people, feeling the blues, feeling depressed, energy, you don't create energy, you transform energy. So you're feeling lazy on the couch for the whole day and you don't move. That's how you're going to feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're not going to have energy. Now you're feeling lazy, you're pushing yourself to get up, get out, I'm going to do something. I'm going to elevate my heart rate a little bit. There is no way you're going to go back in bed and just feel depressed or the blues
Yeah.
because you are recreating your energy with more energy. It's the lifestyle. And that's where the message has to be all my friends and the people that I love to be. And I wanted them to be disconnected a little bit from the outside, how it looks. And I post on Instagram, I'm always half naked. I'm aware of all that, but that's not the message. That's not the point. The point it is you are the message. You are the point. Take control of your lifestyle. Don't do the shortcut. Embrace the long term. Embrace that life is not going to be perfect. But in the end of the day, you're still showing up. You
Yeah.
show up for yourself. Now you're showing up for your kids. Your husband's on the same journey as you are. You guys are doing this together.
And it
More
is a
power.
flywheel effect. It feels like we focused a lot on lifting weights. My husband and I focused on lifting weights. And then it was like we focused on our sleep. You and I talk about touching grass, like there's so much that comes from like the mental. But what I will say is like for me, the lifting weights, the walking, it sort of unlocked the first physical aspect, right? And then other physical aspects of sleep came in, being mindful about food intake. And then the mental part is so important too. And it just all starts to come together. I don't think I'm ever going to be there. It's just something that I try and like stay touched in on that stuff as I live my life.
And again, I love that. The full circle. You started with lifting weights. Need to feel good about myself, how I look from the outside. And now everything's coming from the inner side, your mindfulness, your sleeping, your relationship with food, your sense of belonging to earth, like by touching your feet in the grass. Again, you empowering yourself to have and live a lifestyle that so many of us envy, but yet we put all these obstacles. I can't do this for that and that, but all these tiny little changes that you made in your life, look where you are.
Yeah.
That's why I'm so excited interviewing her because there's so much to learn here. It's so rich. It's so incredible, powerful. Again, you don't need money to do that. You don't need tools. You don't need trips. You just need to find your inner and in connection with yourself, with your soul, with your mind, with your health, the way you feel, the way you are, the way you look, everything else. I think your message is very powerful. People connect.
The reason the call movement is so spot on for me is it's everything. You're focused on everything that like I have personally found is important. Leticia, like everything you espouse is I mean like I cannot I would just like always sign my name under it because it's exactly what I found.
This is about you.
Okay.
Well, thank you. So, Megan, let's go back to perfection because as your friend, I know you're still a perfectionist. How do you manage to accept the imperfection of fitness and you envision your whole week? I'm gonna do 3 sessions of lifting weights. This is what's gonna get it done. And then first session is very successful. Then the next 2 sessions are not successful.
Yeah, I mean, it's still something I sometimes struggle with in terms of like, I don't like not to be hitting what I want and doing my goals. But like at the end of the day, life happens sometimes. Absolutely. And when life happens, I take a step back. I really do view each day as a new opportunity, right? So like there's no failure anymore for me is what I've kind of come to realize is like there's no test that I'm trying to achieve where I need perfection. Each day is a new opportunity to kind of to do this right. And if I'm starting to see where a pattern where like there is a week that I don't reach my goals, then I take a step back and I try and do a little bit of reflection, like, well, why didn't I? Was it because I was so busy? Well, how can I carve out time for that? And that's coming up with that answer really helps me kind of get back on track.
Okay. And then on the days that you are really, really tired, what do you do?
Like I do give myself grace. I understand if I'm sick and I can't work out, like what my body is telling me is I need rest. And I will say that I don't know that we focus enough on rest as an important part of health. And
Yes.
and I've learned it like sleep is like precious to me at this point.
Mhm.
And having those routines with sleep are precious. But, I do try to listen to my body, but that doesn't mean if I didn't work out because I was not feeling there, I just get back on the horse tomorrow,
Yep.
like, and I also think there's a balance of, okay, so if I'm not feeling 100, maybe I'm not doing my weightlifting routine. Can I still go for a walk?
Mhm,
Like
mhm.
there's a way to move your body still, right?
Forget about today. Let's keep moving. Let's go back to the scale. One thing that I realized here in America is how obsessed we are with data, how obsessed we're with numbers, watch, scale, everything, steps. And which don't get me wrong, it can be a good thing, but we're truly obsessed over this. We forget about how do we feel. Myself, when I'm doing my trainings for the Ironman, I'm looking at my numbers and it's saying to me that I'm at zone 3, but I'm feeling out of breath. That's not zone 3. You're in zone 4, you're feeling out of breath. But yet my watch is telling me you're in zone 3. So I'm gonna keep pushing hard. So I think the data sometimes can do a disservice for us by telling numbers that it's really not comprehensible. And that includes the scale. You mentioned that you're on the scale, you know you're doing the correct thing, you're lifting weight, you feeling great, you can see a difference. The scale is not telling you, hey, honey, muscles are heavier.
Yeah.
The scale is telling you a number and you're obsessed with that number. And suddenly, like, I'm doing all this stuff, but it's not working for me because now I'm heavier.
Yeah.
I'm just going to stop eating. So, how did you break up with your scale?
Yeah, I definitely have a love-hate relationship with scale even to this day. I think it is a data point, right? And I do think that, data is important from the standpoint of it's information.
Mm.
And that's what we should use it as is information. I think that in any given day, you can go up or down on the scale and you shouldn't be careful to celebrate or penalize yourself because of that, right? Because
Mhm,
that's not
mhm,
what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be something that is a long-term indicator. I use it as an piece of information, but I only weigh myself like once a week, probably. And it's so that I don't become too obsessed with the
mhm.
scale. But I try to focus, and this is so much easier when you're not obsessed with the scale. How do I feel in my clothes?
Yep.
Like how do I feel, in terms of as I'm moving, how I'm going about life? Can I run with my sons? Can I
Mhm,
play a sport with my
mhm,
sons? Am I out of breath? Or why am I out of breath at this point? Like can I lift a heavy bag of groceries and all the other things
mhm.
versus making 2 trips to the car, like all that stuff.
I like how you said, yes, the scale is good information out there, but it's not a definition of who you are or where you are in
Right.
life. So, to finalize our conversation, I need you to share a message to women sitting on the couch, listening to our conversation, and have told her friend, I'm going to start tomorrow. What is your advice to this person?
I guess my first question would be like, is there a reason you can't start today? What is the thing that you can start doing and building upon? Like, what does that plan look like for each person and figuring that out?
You are in an amazing point in your life where you already defined your lifestyle with wellness and fitness. You already found that whole circle in your wellness on your relationship with food, your fitness, your strength training, how you want to feel by age 70 and 80s, your recovery. What would you tell this person? What do they have to do to achieve that lifestyle?
I think the first thing is starting. The second thing is consistency, staying with it. And then maybe the third thing is giving yourself grace when you don't always have the perfect outcomes, right? Like whether that's like I didn't lift what I wanted to today, I didn't hit all my lifts today, I didn't get a walk in. Okay, tomorrow's a new day. Right. And it comes right back to consistency. But I think before we get discouraged, sometimes we just have to give ourselves that grace.
I love that. Be kind to yourself. Consistency over perfectionist. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you being here. I'm so proud of you. I am in awe with you. And I hope I'll be interviewing her in about 30 years to see where we are and we can share our expertise at that point. Thank you so much for your time. If this conversation resonates with you or a friend, please forward the podcast to this person, subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you next time. Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks, Leticia.